Israel has struck a Hezbollah command center in Beirut's Dahya district as fighting with Iran's proxies continues to escalate. The IDF says the site was used to direct attacks against Israeli civilians and troops operating in southern Lebanon. The strike followed a wave of Hezbollah drone attacks, including 3 UAVs that exploded inside Israel earlier today. Israeli officials say the strikes were precise and made clear that attacks on Israel will be met with direct action, including in Beirut. According to Iranian media, Iranian officials responded to the strike, saying there is no doubt that these crimes will not remain unanswered. Meanwhile, on the ground, IDF forces are pushing deeper into southern Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah infrastructure and striking dozens of sites as part of an effort to push the group further from the border. But this escalation is unfolding at a sensitive moment, as a possible U.S. Iran deal appears to be nearing. President Donald Trump says an agreement could be signed soon, with reports of a final text already in place, though Iran says no signing will take place today, even as talks continue. The proposed deal would extend the ceasefire, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and launch new nuclear negotiations. However, the timing remains uncertain and the process fragile, with both sides trying to avoid a wider conflict. The risks are clear. The last time Israel struck Hezbollah in Beirut, Iran responded with a major attack, triggering hours of intense confrontation and threatening to derail diplomacy. Iran has already warned that any further strikes in Beirut could lead to another response, raising fears that the current escalation could again spill into a broader regional conflict. Meanwhile, concerns are growing in Jerusalem that the emerging deal could leave many of Israel's key security objectives unresolved. Israeli officials warn the proposed framework may strengthen Tehran without eliminating its most dangerous capabilities. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the latest.
Israeli officials are reportedly deeply alarmed by the terms of the emerging U.S. Iran Memorandum of Understanding, which could formally end months of conflict and open a new diplomatic track between Washington and Tehran. According to reports, President Trump told Prime Minister Netanyahu in a phone call over the weekend that the arrangement is an excellent deal and that it's time to end the war. Despite Israeli objections, officials say Netanyahu appeared to accept that the Trump administration is determined to move forward with the agreement. The proposed deal would extend the ceasefire by 60 days, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, begin easing sanctions on Iran, and launch new talks on Tehran's nuclear program. But Israeli officials argue the framework fails to address several of the central goals of the war. Iran's ballistic missile program is not included, nor is there any requirement for Tehran to end support for Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, or other regional proxies. Officials also warn that what was once described as the removal of Iran's highly enriched uranium has now been reduced to discussions about diluting the material at a later stage. One senior official compared the framework to previous ceasefire arrangements, questioning what leverage would remain if Iran fails to fulfill its commitments after the ceasefire period expires. They also fear the agreement could help rehabilitate Iran's regime economically and diplomatically, while leaving its core military capabilities intact. According to reports, Iran would receive sanctions relief, but gradually and conditionally. It does allow Iran to restart oil exports and reconnect to international shipping routes. Reports also indicate that the issue of Iran's billions of dollars in frozen funds has not yet been fully resolved in the current draft of the agreement. Netanyahu has focused his recent remarks on the nuclear issue, repeating his pledge that as long as he is prime minister, Iran will never be allowed to obtain nuclear weapons.
And as Washington and Tehran appear to be closing in on this new understanding, we're now joined by retired Colonel Rich Outzen, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, and Ambassador Danny Ayalon, Chairman at Silver Road Capital Group. Thank you both for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Rich, let's begin with you. What is your overall assessment of this emerging agreement? Is this a strategic breakthrough or more of a temporary arrangement?
A little bit of both. During my time in Israel, I heard many times from my Israeli friends that some problems can only be managed and not definitively solved. And the Iranian security threat regionally seems to be one of those. I personally am of the opinion that there's more progress here on the nuclear file than we've seen before. There is apparently a commitment not to have nuclear weapons, not to acquire them in any way, shape, or form from the Iranians. That is new. That is important. At the same time, it's hard not to feel the sense that there's a lot of missed opportunities that were left on the table over the several months of fighting here. There are some weaknesses in the purported deal, the MOU, that are reminiscent of JCPOA. And for instance, the idea that we're not solving the ballistic missile issue, we're not solving or really addressing the proxy issues. Those have essentially been decoupled. We have to recognize that Trump had a clock that he's working with tied to his own elections, or the congressional elections rather, in the fall. So as a supporter both of Trump and of regional stability and of Israel's security, I think it's a partial victory to have a deal like this, but a lot of loose ends. And frankly, you have to say with regret that this could have been more effective. The war could have been more effective. And there's a lot of things to be concerned about.
Danny, from an Israeli security perspective, is this emerging deal good or absolutely bad for Israel?
Well, Sivan, I think not only it's bad for Israel, it's bad for the region, it's bad for the United States, it's bad indeed for the entire international community, because what the Iranians managed to do, what they have wanted to do all the time, was to decouple the two issues of the nuclear material and their nuclear infrastructure with the opening of the Hormuz. So what they get here in this, what appears to be an MOU, we do not have, the details have not been all spelled out, but let's say if it is what it appears to be, that means that Iran will be able to resume its shipment of oil. They may even get some money back from its frozen assets. And at the same time, they do not give anything on the nuclear issue. So this is very bad. And 60 days, that means that the Iranians have a lot of time to whether hide, to continue and deceive, and maybe not even address this issue. 60 days is a long time. The Iranians are masters at procrastination, and so far it seems like they have their way, which is a pity, because notwithstanding the decisive military victories of Israel and the United States, it seems like from a political point of view, even strategic, Iran has the upper hand, and this is because very poor negotiations on the United States.
And if this memorandum is signed, who comes out of this in a stronger position, the U.S., Iran, or neither? It seems from what you're saying to me that you believe that Tehran comes out strengthened here.
Oh, absolutely. Because if this MOU, as it is now mentioned, signed out, then Iran gets pretty much everything they wanted without paying anything. Supposedly, they promised to pay in 60 days, but I'm not sure that they are really have any intention to do that. Meanwhile, there is another major strategic blow that the Iranians also forced on Trump, the linkage between Tehran or Iran and Lebanon, something that has never been before. So we see here that the Iranians actually are strengthening their grip over Lebanon and actually strengthening their ties to their proxies. Part of the objective, or one of the objectives of this war with Iran, was to sever the support of Iran to its proxies. Second thing was to deal with the ballistic missiles, no mentioning of that. And again, with the nuclear, nothing is right now on the table. Only 60 days from now, which is very, very weak. I'm afraid right now we see a deal which is a bad deal, even worse than the one that Obama signed in 2015.
Mm-hmm. Now, Rich, does this agreement limit Israel's freedom to act militarily against Iran, do you think? Iran or its proxies?
Well, with respect to the ambassador, a great public servant, I have to disagree on a couple of points. First of all, with regards to nothing being on the table for nuclear, look, this is the sine qua non for President Trump. And the reading or interpretations, we're both talking about a document we haven't seen, by the way, but the interpretations I've seen include a strong and firm commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon, and that they will dilute their highly enriched uranium from 60% down to a lower level, and that the U.S. will have the opportunity to participate and observe those processes. That is absolutely critical. If that's not in the MOU, then it is as the ambassador says. If it is in the MOU, then that is the core interest, I think, existential interest for Israel and a very important strategic interest for the United States, that Iran not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. So let's wait and see what the MOU text says. Now, with regards to Lebanon, again, the devil's in the details here, but I think these issues have been decoupled in the sense that there will be a peace for Iran, that as long as the denuclearization is proceeding and is observable, the U.S. will act to restrain Israel from striking Iran proper to protect that process. However, I don't think that guarantees anything for Hezbollah. Now, there'll be regional pressure for Israel to withdraw forces from southern Lebanon and to show restraint. That has been the traditional relationship. The United States urges restraint on Israel. Israel acts when it feels it needs to. But I don't think the United States is going to interpret this deal as protecting Hezbollah. And by the way, all of the carrots, so to speak, for the Iranian regime are conditional and reversible. So, I mean, we've heard that language before. I know I hear echoes of JCPOA. But remember what's happened over the last 3 to 4 months, inflicting a horrendous amount of damage on Tehran's military capabilities. So we can turn that spigot back on. That's what's different between the JCPOA and this, is that we put the gun on the table, metaphorically. We fired the gun, and now we're seeing if we can get a deal based on the exercise of force and leverage. So I'm a little more optimistic than the ambassador, although, again, there's clearly some loose ends here.
Now, Danny, you mentioned the link between Lebanon and Iran, or Hezbollah and Iran, that is. We're hearing that the chief negotiator, Kalibaf, says that the Dahya strike shows that the U.S. is not committed to this deal. And we're seeing Netanyahu congratulate Trump on his 80th birthday by, saying happy birthday, but at the same time, we're striking in the Dahya in Lebanon. So what are the general messages coming out here? What do you think?
Well, I think it's important to set the ground rules, or to continue, whereby there is no immunity for Hezbollah anywhere in Lebanon, certainly not in the Dahya and in Beirut. This is, I would say, a classic act of self-defense by Israel, and we will not get any constraints on that, and we certainly will defy any attempt by the Iranians to make this linkage. As for the rest of the part of it, I truly hope that the colonel is right, and that we have not seen the final product yet. But one thing I would like to mention is that even if it is mentioned in the MOU, we know that the Iranians are masters at deception, and if there are no action on the ground, then unfortunately it could be just the entire agreement just as a dead letter. There's also one thing which is very, very embarrassing in my mind, is the optics. Here we see that the United States is waiting for the Iranian Ayatollahs to make a decision. It seems like almost the U.S. is begging for the Ayatollahs to sign. The Ayatollahs seem like they have the upper hand. They take their time. Meanwhile, they continue to strike allies of the United States in the region. And this optics also does not bode well for the deterrence by the U.S. in the region, the trust that the U.S. allies would have in it. And I think it's very important. I think the U.S. is the indispensable country. And we need to see the U.S. strong, proud, and capable. The U.S. does have the capabilities. There's no doubt about it. But also we would like to see a political will.
And optics certainly do matter. Ambassador Danny Ayalon, thank you very much. Retired Colonel Rich Eldzen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In Israel, everything can change in an instant. That's why Hadassah hospitals don't wait for a crisis to prepare. In times of trouble, our hospitals react quickly, rushing units underground, maternity wards, cancer units, ICUs, ensuring our life-changing care continues. Soldiers are saved, civilians healed. But more underground facilities are urgently needed. Advanced operating rooms, fortified recovery spaces, and additional beds. The people of Israel always need to be ready for whatever comes next. Please visit Hadassah.org and give today, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring. Hadassah. Life-changing.
As diplomatic efforts intensify between Washington and Tehran, many Israelis are watching developments with a mix of hope, caution, and some disappointment. Residents across Israel, particularly in communities affected by years of regional conflict, say any deal will be judged by one thing, whether it brings lasting security. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
Hopes for a possible U.S. Iran agreement are growing after President Trump said a deal could be signed as early as today. But across Israel, reaction has been far from unanimous. While some see a diplomatic breakthrough as a chance to reduce regional tensions, others remain deeply skeptical, warning that any agreement must address Israel's long-term security concerns. In northern Israel, communities near the Lebanese border say daily life still feels shadowed by the threat of rockets, drones, and Hezbollah attacks, despite talk of ceasefires and negotiations. The sound of war remains a constant presence, even as political leaders claim a deal is nearly done that will include the war in Lebanon.
So we feel the same. The war didn't finish for us. We don't feel safe. We don't feel we can send the kids everywhere they want without watching them and try to know where they're going, and need to be close to the bomb shelter. So it's no ceasefire.
For us, it's quite the same. We hear the war, we hear artillery, we hear the planes, we hear everything, and we look at the sky and we see interceptions, and so we're here, we're living our lives. We're doing the best we can under the circumstances. We're very strong. We're a strong community, strong people, and we live with this uncertainty.
In central Israel, some residents expressed hope that diplomacy could eventually deliver stability.
That we will take the decision that will be good for our country and for our people, especially in the north, because right now we are living in a comfort time here in the center of Israel. But our brothers, our people over there are suffering. They cannot enjoy life like we do. So I really hope that the governance of Israel will do everything in her power to make sure they will live in peace for a long time, not for 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 year, for a long time.
Others question whether any deal can survive for the long term.
I'm not sure it's so good for Israel with all the phrases, with all the details. But because Trump has a limit time for him being president, and then after he go, we don't know what will be the next. So the agreement must be different, for my opinion.
For now, Israelis are waiting to see whether the diplomatic moment translates into reality. While the prospect of a U.S.-Iran agreement has raised hopes of a calmer region, many here say true peace will only be measured by lasting security on Israel's borders, and whether families can once again live without fear of the next siren.
Step into the story of Israel's heartland with Blessed by Israel, where every purchase connects you to the land, the people, and the promise. Taste the sweetness of the promised land in their delicious honeys, or wear the story of the land close to your heart with the stunning Special Places of the Land necklace. Behind each product is a family, pioneers living in Judea and Samaria, crafting beauty and goodness from the soil of the Bible. When you buy their creations, you're not only receiving something extraordinary, you're investing in Israel's future, helping small businesses thrive and communities grow strong. Join a movement that celebrates faith, resilience, and hope. Visit blessedbyisrael.com and use ILTV's special code BLESSISRAEL, that's BLESSISRAEL, at checkout for 10% off on your first order. Be part of strengthening Israel, one purchase at a time.
And in Gaza, fighting continues to flare amid the fragile ceasefire. Over the weekend, the IDF says they eliminated 3 terrorists who were preparing imminent attacks against Israeli forces in Gaza. The Israeli military says it carried out precise strikes in the Gaza Strip, eliminating 3 terror operatives. Those killed were identified as Qasem Hassan Saleh and Sami Jamil Abu Dalal, both platoon commanders in Islamic Jihad, along with Ubaid Mamoun Saleh Franji, a Hamas deputy platoon commander. The IDF says the operatives posed an immediate threat to forces operating in the area. In a separate operation, the military said it destroyed 3 Hamas weapons depots in central Gaza. Turning to Britain, 4 pro-Palestinian activists have been sentenced to more than 20 years in prison combined over a raid on a facility operated by Israeli defense company Elbit Systems. A judge ruled the offenses carried a terrorism connection, resulting in tougher sentences. The 4 anti-Israel activists were members of the now-banned group Palestine Action and took part in a 2024 break-in at an Elbit Systems UK facility in Bristol. The attack caused more than £1 million in damage to the site, which is operated by the Israeli defense firm. Charlotte Head, Samuel Corner, Leona Cameo, and Fatma Zainab Rajwani were convicted of criminal damage earlier this year. Corner was also found guilty of inflicting grievous bodily harm after prosecutors said he struck a police officer with a sledgehammer during the incident.
The State of Israel announces the year of Od Yoter Tov, 0% income tax for New Olim. You read that right. 0% income tax for New Olim for those who make Aliyah in 2026. And this is in addition to the existing benefits for New Olim in employment and beyond. It's simply Od Yoter Tov. 100% Zionism, 0% income tax. Now is the time to make Aliyah. For more details, visit the Ofik Israeli website.
While Israel is best known for its biblical and ancient archaeological treasures, a new discovery in the north is taking researchers much further back in time, hundreds of thousands of years before the first cities or even modern humans. Devo Klein has the details.
Archaeologists are calling it a prehistoric time capsule, hidden beneath boulders, soil, and vegetation for hundreds of thousands of years. A cave near Fureidis has revealed extraordinarily well-preserved evidence of human life dating back between 250,000 and 400,000 years. The discovery offers a rare glimpse into a little-known period that existed just before the emergence of Neanderthals and modern humans in the region. Excavations by the Israel Antiquities Authority and the University of Haifa have unearthed hundreds of stone tools, including sharp hand axes and scrappers used for hunting, butchering animals, and preparing hides. Researchers also discovered remarkably well-preserved bones from gazelles, fallow deer, wild cattle, and ancient horses, evidence of skilled hunters who lived and worked together in larger social groups than earlier human communities. Experts say sites from this period are extremely rare, with only a handful known across the entire Near East. The cave's collapsed roof effectively sealed the site, protecting its contents from later human activity and allowing researchers to study an unusually intact record of prehistoric life. No human remains have been found so far, but scientists hope future excavations may help answer one of the biggest questions in human evolution: who exactly lived in the land of Israel during the crucial transition between earlier hominids, Neanderthals, and modern-day human beings.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 21 degrees Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside steady temperatures, seeing highs of 29 degrees Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and keep up with us on social media. That's at ILTV_Israel on all platforms. You can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv. Be well, be safe, and thank you so much for watching.